Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Akashi on behalf of Hitachi Limited and Hitachi Consulting, as well as the Ausia company, to give a brief introduction about the MES, the so-called manufacturing execution system applied to the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in the China market. We'll give a brief introduction in three parts. The first will be get a review talking about the manufacturing execution system in general, define the what is the MES system doing, and which association gives the definition to the industry. And the second will give a picture to show how Hitachi carry out the solution named the heat farms, dedicated to this pharmaceutical industry particularly. And the last will describe a little bit about the benefit and advantages which we can bring to the pharmaceutical industry. So on the background of the entire industry, not only limited to the pharmaceutical industry, I think the system, the computerized system, be introduced to every industry nowadays is very common, but more likely so-called computerized system, or in general IT system, has been deployed more on the upper layer, which is for the planning purpose, no matter it's the financial planning or the production planning or the inventory planning, more likely focus on the upper layers. So we know a lot of industries has accomplished so-called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System, since two decades ago. And see the picture for the manufacturing industry, a lot of automatic machineries or equipment have been deployed in the shop floor or on the shop floors, which we can see the phenomenon on the upper layer for business administration purpose, a lot of IT, a lot of computer system over there. On the shop floor, for the operations, for the manufacturing, for the execution of the manufacturing, also highly automated and with a very high-end equipment on site. So what comes to next is that since the middle of 1990, people noticed that IT side has a big gap to work closely with the shop floor execution site. So we are aiming at in the middle of the planning and the shop floor control. We see a lot of inefficiency to guide the operators, to guide the shop floor colleagues to accomplish their jobs or operations with a streamlined planning and execution to work closely with the equipment on the shop floor. So here's the manufacturing execution definition come up with those features. We don't go over each of the bullet, but we know that to accomplish the work for upper layer planning with the shop floor control, the shop floor operation level, we need to fulfill several features by bringing the functionality for people to do the resource allocations, to do the production unit assigned for dispatching purpose, and also need to work closely with the entire process, with the entire quality control process, and of course the maintenance. Before you can execute the instructions, we have to make sure the equipment device is well maintained and so forth. So who gave this definition? I think the MESA in the middle of the 1990s gave the definition to separate the IT system into three layers. We know that for the business management purpose, we always have to focus on the toughest layer, which is strategy layer. But for the business operation management layer, we have to split it into additional 2 layers. And in the middle layer is the much more familiar layers, including those ERP, CRM, so on and so forth, which is dedicated normally the office or the buy and sales business operations. But down to the bottom layer, when we focus on the production management layers, we know that there should be the MES to fulfill so that we can connect the shop floor to the ERP layers. So since we know that we are focusing on this shop floor control connect back to the ERP layers, so we know the MES manufacturing execution system should be cover entire shop floor the domain, which again you can see from the other angle. This shop floor will start from the material handling from the warehouse through the production layers and get back to the warehouse as the finished goods. So it start from the raw materials and work into process and back to the final goods. In order to make this solution into feasible solutions, the solution itself has to be designed in a way to strongly marriage to the specific operations and the working document. And the working document on the shop floor control will be normally be identified or kicked out or triggered by so-called work instructions. So you can see that Hitachi's pharmaceutical MES solutions would be sitting in the center, which come out with the work instruction and work with the upper layer systems through the connection of the planning, from the monthly planning, daily planning, and spanning the material plannings to the work production plannings. And then we need to make this solution to work with the warehouse so that they can work together. Through the trigger of the work instruction, they retrieve the materials from the warehouse and doing the weighing and put into the entire process and get back to the final goods. So this need to be linked together. And definitely we have to work through this process, work closely with the quality management system that guarantee every operations would be under the right quality control at the right control point. So we can use another terminology, which is we have to identify the critical control point and make sure the operations and the quality control operations is strongly linked. And this is the picture, shows how we get the materials out of the warehouse, and that's also incorporate with the quality management system and get into the working process, entire shop floor process, and finally get into final goods. But everything is following the good manufacturing practicals, guidance and idea. So this is the angle for us to see. Then for specific scenario, let's say from the first step, we trigger the work instruction. Everything related materials has to be assigned from very beginning. So this give a picture where the system give the framework is a kind of a enforced framework to guarantee the people go into the warehouse and pick the right stuff by plan. Because normally, if there's no system over there, people have to pick the material by the memory or by the written paper instructions. And how can we guarantee they make the right operation to pick the right stuff? If there is no plan in the system way, we couldn't really make a judgment on real-time basis to enforce the people do the right operations, even under the picking up materials stage. And this is the weighing system, very critical part of the operations. When they got the right materials onto the station for weighing, so if there are still the paper written instructions, and how do you guarantee the people will follow the right weighing procedures, doing cleansing beforehand and really put the right material onto the weighing device, and then get the more important things when they get the memorized figures of amounts. Well, is there really written at the right timing? Is not delayed, or is there any misreading of the figures? Without the systematic connection to read the weighing device figures, it's very difficult to make judgment that people did right things. So as we said, the system deployed in the field, it can liberate the people human error and really lift up the burden for individuals doing the operations. And for the rest of things, could be configured to each of the operations, including mixture, including the packagings. Although there are equipment automatically be set and configured to run the entire thing, but still each of the batch, each of the work in process materials be transported still through the human manual operations. So the system over there can give the right instruction through the media, the device, the terminal of the IT equipment, and show the right step for them to follow. And this become an enforcement, to make sure people doesn't jump up, didn't, repeat to do the same operations or just messed up the sequence. So all put together, I think people knows with the enforcement of system capability, every movement, every operation will be well guided. But everything we talked till now is all about our human behaviors. But what about the goods? How do we identify the goods, which is right goods to pick up, right goods to move forward? The key will be rely on the identification systems. Not more in most cases, we use the barcode system to attach to the goods or the containers, so that we make sure the right target is not based on the human judgment. It's based on the barcode and the system interactions, so that the right stuff wouldn't be mistaken by the human errors. Honestly speaking, the barcode is very, very wide open. The other measure would be RFID type of things. So we can deploy multiple different IT technology to identify the right material targets and the stuffs. So at the end of the day, the system have to be able to support the auditing purpose, no matter it's internal auditing or external auditing. So every single records of the human behaviors, execution, operations, and the stuff, materials, packaging materials, or the other things, and even the device equipment. When people do the operation, the system will automatically record everything at once. So it again liberates the people to do the manual bookkeeping or record keeping. So which give the conveniency that we can do the trace at once on the system. Once we just declare the leading system is computerized system, not paper, then auditor or whether it's the internal or external can do the forward trace or backward trace on the system right at the blink. So I think till now we just gave several features about the system to do. So at the end we can revisit what the benefit the system can bring to us. Well, we know it brings us a lot of efficiency because this system manufacturing education is basically again, located in the upper planning system and the shop floor equipment. It can leverage people's capability without risking the human errors or the time lag inefficiency. So it's bring a lot of value to fulfill this gap in the upper layers and down there. So in short, I think we just want to conclusion that with the right manufacturing execution system deployment, we can completing the quality management structure right aligned to the operation, aligned to operations without the human interruptions. And we also can give the benefit to compliance, adaptation to regulations, to keep all those records with in an efficient way for auditing purpose. And of course, for deviation control. I think the deviation control is more important than the compliance, because if we do the deviation control in an efficient way, and our quality will be continuously improved through all the process. And nowadays in China, the data integrity and data traceability is a very fancy word. You cannot do that on a paper systems. And improving entire efficiency from two aspects. One is from the operations, and then from the regulations. I think this is the contents we want to share with you guys today. Thank you very much. I guess the time is flying, so I should pass over the control to Mr. Deere. Yeah.
Thank you, Akashi. What I'm going to talk about really now is tying it all together in what we're calling Baogong. You've seen we've explained the training program. We're going to teach people about GMP. You hear about the Hitachi manufacturing execution system. And now how do you tie it together? What we are is a CMO for injectable pharmaceuticals. We have PaizaBio, which is the marketing and sales arm, Ausia, which is the manufacturing arm, and Complio, which is the training arm. Think about what's happening in the world. The pharmaceutical market is changing everywhere. The Western pharmaceutical companies, the Western markets are dramatically different. The pharmaceuticals are under attack because of pricing. Cost-benefit analysis and reimbursement is a significant issue in Europe. Costs in general are a significant issue in the US. Who's paying? How much are you going to pay? What are we really worth? No one really knows in the developed world. It's all changing, and changing very rapidly. If you take a look at the global markets, everything is going generic, and the big pharmaceutical companies are trying to change things by moving towards specialty products for which they can maintain high prices. But at the same time, there's significant resistance to these high prices in the Western world. In the UK, the NICE organization is saying no to things. In the US, there's a lot of publicity about these high prices and pharmaceutical companies taking advantage of the fact that they have an approval of a drug product. The future of the world is really in the emerging markets. And the emerging markets, China is the emerging markets. There are others, but China is where incomes are increasing and where demand for quality products are increasing rapidly. China, 1.4 billion people, bigger than the US and Europe and South America combined. All right? So the opportunity in China is huge. Historically in China, the quality of products, the quality of pharmaceutical products has been not what it has been in the West. And there has not been significant demand from the population for better health care. As affluence has increased, that is beginning to change. And the Chinese government is going to have to supply and make sure that there are better medicines, higher quality medicines available to the masses. If you're a pharmaceutical company, what do you do? How do you go into the Chinese marketplace? Historically, Western pharmaceutical companies have used China for manufacturing, but they haven't used those manufacturing facilities to supply China. They've used it for exports because the cost of manufacture in China has been lower. All right? Someone is going to have to say, how are we going to produce the higher quality products in China for the Chinese marketplace instead of for exports? And that's why we exist. That's why PaizaBio and Ausia are focused on the future, to produce in China, for China, to Western quality standards. Places like India, huge pharmaceutical manufacturing has become suspect recently because of compliance issues and concerns about GMP compliance and quality. So what we're now trying to do is make it possible for you as a manufacturing company to produce in China, for China, to Western standards. How are we doing that? We have to develop trust. So the first things we're going to be able to do is our business practices will be Western. Secrecy agreements, contracts that are enforceable. Secondly, if in the US and in Europe increasingly now there's an effort to go back to the original days of CMOs when you had to have a man in the plant. But having a person in the plant is an expensive process. We want to be able to make it possible to have a virtual man in the plant. So what we're giving access to is you can go online for a computer, a smartphone, and watch your product being made. In addition to that, and at the same time as that, you're going to be able to go online and collect data from the MES system, the manufacturing execution system just described by Hitachi. So you will be able to see any measurement, and we can customize it for the client, anything you want to monitor and measure during the production of your batch, you'll be able to see it online. So you'll watch it online, and you collect the data online. You can just see the status of your product. You'll know exactly what's going on at any time you choose to look. All right. The systems are completely compliant with FDA and EU regulations, and so this just makes it easier for you to use our services and be comfortable that you're getting the quality product that you're expecting. Transparency, auditability, accountability, and record keeping, it's all available on the internet. And in summary,